Hey folks, welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So this week, I figure we're going to take a little step back in time and just kind of go over the past year. You know, it's kind of fun to reflect and see everything that you do throughout the year. I honestly did not think that I'd done a whole lot this past year, but holy crap, yeah, there was a lot going on. So anyway, we're going to kind of talk about the things that I've done in the past year or so, since the channel started, maybe even a few things prior to the channel starting, and just kind of go over a few things, where stuff is now, just general memories thing, end of the year stuff, anyways. So I figure, rather than y'all guys just staring at my beautiful face for the entire, however long this video ends up being, figure why not be a little bit productive since we're sensuous doing stuff. So I had Jackson come out earlier this week. I don't know exactly when. He was home from school because Christmas break, and I was at work. And he came out and he started kind of cleaning this stuff up. He did an okay job, typical teenagers. He still missed a bunch of crap on the corners and, all that. So I'm going to try to get out here and get this stuff kind of straightened up a little bit better, cleaned up a little bit better, especially around these edges. He might as well have not even done that. Anyways, so I'm going to work on that and try to get just some of this crap cleaned up and knocking some dents straight and maybe cutting off some of these pieces of metal and, the stuff that I keep talking about needing to do to this bed floor in order to get the new bed floor ready to go in. So figure might as well do that while I'm talking to you guys, because there's probably going to be quite a bit of talking on this one. So I guess let's get to it. I'm going to get my stuff ready to go in here so I'm not in and out of inside this back of this truck. So go get my tools and crap together for that. And then I'll catch up with y'all here in just a couple minutes. All right, folks. So it's actually Christmas Eve. It is colder than crap out there. It's actually warmer today than it was yesterday. What is it today? It's in the double digits at least. Yesterday was, I think the high yesterday was like 7. It's been pretty cold, so I haven't been out to the shop. But today I think when I went out earlier, it was like 14. So it's manageable to keep it somewhat warm here in the shop where, yesterday was like, yeah, that's a lost cause. So pretty much what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to try to scrape as much of this leftover crap off as possible. Jackson got a good bit of it off, but there's still some remnants left. I guess he didn't understand the detail that I needed him to get to on this. So that's basically what I'm going to do here. But while we're doing that, I figure I can talk about everything that's happened in the past. So the funny part about the channel is I'd actually planned on starting it prior to doing Jeremy's truck. I probably had my camera for, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months, something like that. I bought this camera, my GoPro, that I'm still using today. I bought it probably a few months prior to starting the channel, going, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then it was just that, I don't know. Then finally said, screw it, jumped into it. So if any of y'all out there are thinking about starting a little YouTube channel, do it. It's cool. But just be prepared. If you're planning on keeping it consistent and stuff, it's a lot of work. It really is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh yeah, it's easy. It's super easy stuff. No, it is a lot of work. But anyways, I should have started the channel back when I was building Big John. Big John was, it's my 1990 Chevy Crew Cab Dually. I'll throw a picture of him in somewhere over here. So I'll throw some pictures in there of when I started on the truck, right when I brought it home. it was one of those. I had a 73 step side that I planned on building. And you know, I told y'all the story behind Steve, where I bought Steve as a flip truck. I was just gonna buy it cheap and fix it up a little bit and sell it, make $1,000 or something on it, just so I could afford to do more on my step side. And ended up, I like Steve a whole lot more than I like the step side for some reason. So, so I stuck with Steve. But I planned on just kind of keeping them both, and then having the step side and the fleet side. And then my buddy Crook, you know, he knew I was really wanting a crew cab dually. So anyways, he sends me this, you know, crew cab dually that he found on Marketplace, just up in Nashville, and I wanted $1,800 for it. And I was like, man, if that thing ain't beat all to hell and it ain't, you know, chewed up with rust, that's definitely worth it. So I called the guy, and it was actually up at a mechanic shop. And I called the fella, and he said, the words you don't want to hear, I've got somebody on the way to get it. And I was like, dang it. And I think I was at work. And I was like, well, I can leave work. This is back when I worked for a different company. I was like, I can leave work, which I kind of had carte blanche on that. I could kind of leave whenever I needed to. So I was like, I can leave work and head up there right now and give you money. And the guy said, no, I've got this other guy on the way. He's like, but if for some reason this guy doesn't show, I'll give you a shout and I'll let you know, and you can come get it tomorrow. I was like, well, okay. Praying and hoping that this other guy never showed. Well, as it would happen, that guy never showed. Or no, he did show. He just passed on it because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't running. And he didn't want to buy a truck that wasn't running. Me, I was like, whatever. I don't care if it's running or not. So, bought that truck, drug it home, and basically parked it. Mainly because whenever we found the truck, I only had like $700 at the time, $700 or $800. I forget exactly. Maybe it was $600. I don't remember. I just know I didn't have the money to do it. So I hollered at Crook. I was like, hey man, can you spot me for this? And I'll get you as soon as I can. And him being a really good friend, he said, hell yeah. So he spotted me the cash on that one. Thank goodness. And as a matter of fact, I actually borrowed his truck and trailer to go pick up Big John. So got his truck and his trailer, went up there and picked up Big John, and then got it home and basically told him, I was like, look man, I'm not going to put any money or do anything to it until I get you paid back, you know. And he was like, no, that's cool, man. So Crook was super helpful on that, and thank you very much, Crook, for, you know, helping me out with getting that truck. Anyways, ended up selling my 73 step side, basically so I could pay him back and then have a little bit of cash left over so I could start working on Big John. And Big John was just, that was a lot of work. Pretty much the only thing that hadn't been touched on that truck is the transmission at this point. Everything else has either been rebuilt or replaced. So, and the tranny seems to be going pretty good. It does have like a pump that's making noises in the tranny when it's cold. It whines like a power steering pump, so it's going to need a tranny eventually. But that's something to worry about another day. I got other stuff going on. But that's when it kind of hit. It's like, man, I should do, you know, we should do, or I think Crook actually said, man, you should do a YouTube channel on this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I don't know how to do all that. I don't know anything about it. And at the time, what I was doing was I was just sticking pictures of the stuff I was doing on Instagram and Facebook. So I put a lot of stuff on Instagram and Facebook, you know, the build of Big John as I was tearing stuff down and rebuilding stuff and putting new stuff on there. And, you know, and Big John's a good truck. It's a great truck. I don't drive it as much as I wish I could, but it's mainly because, you know, it's a big block with a non-overdrive tranny, so it's quite thirsty. So, so anyways, so that's kind of when I should have started the channel, but I didn't. And then, you know, Big John was pretty well done. It was just kind of little onesie twosie things, you know, little stuff here, little stuff there. Nothing real crazy going on. And then I'd said something to Crook about, you know, I think this is right after I bought the camera. I was like, I did buy a camera, and I think I'm gonna start up a YouTube channel. And I was like, I just don't know what I can do on there, because right now all my projects are done, except for the Blazer. I hadn't started on it, but I wasn't ready to start on it just yet. Looking back, I probably should have. This is taking way too long. But anyways, you know, what are you gonna do? I'm a single dad, I got a full-time job. I work on it when I can and when I have the gumption. So so anyhow, he comes at me with this idea about one of his neighbors who I'd met, you know, plenty of times before, Jeremy. And he's like, you know, Jeremy'd been over here a few times, tinkering around with us and doing stuff, and he'd constantly say stuff about, you know, God, I wish I could get my old truck up and running. And he just, you know, the mechanical know-how, the tools, and the area to do it was kind of lacking. So Crook called me and was like, hey, I got a great idea. Let's do a revival on Jeremy's truck and I'll tell him about it. I was like, dang, that is a good idea. So that's where Jeremy's truck came in. And, you know, basically, we got it all set up with Jeremy's dad. He was footing the bill for most of the parts. He didn't foot the bill for everything, but he paid for almost everything on that truck. And, you know, it was stored at his house, in his barn. And, you know, we went and stole it, brought it home, and cleaned her up a little bit, and then pulled it in the shop and got to work on it. And that was a very, very long, I think it was a month, no, it was 2 months that we worked on that truck. That was a long 2 months. It was almost every single night. Crook and his son Caden would come over. Jackson would come out and help every once and again. He was playing football, so, you know, at the time he was doing practice and stuff after school. Because I think we snagged the truck in October and worked on it through October and November and gave it to him in December. No, we gave it to him at the end of November, right around Thanksgiving. So that was a really awesome project. You know, we went through and golly, everything we did to that truck, there was so much that truck needed and so many things that we ended up doing to that thing. I mean, I think originally the reason why the truck got parked was because it had brake lines that were failing. You know, I guess just it sat in that barn for 11 years. And you know how it goes when the truck or something sits for a long time, things just tend to go bad on it. So, unfortunately, it was parked with a damn near full tank of gas that had turned into varnish in a hurry. And that was terrible. That gas smelled so bad. So, you know, we had that going on. Let's see, we did, golly, what all did we do to that thing? All new brake lines on it. Dang near rebuilt the rear axle. Polished a bunch of crap on it. Painted stuff. Did some interior work on it. I put a radio or a Bluetooth amplifier, subwoofer, some speakers, so he'd have some tunes so he can listen to, you know, driving down the road. We redid the exhaust on it. I mean, we did a lot in a couple months' time, and we did it on a pretty tight little budget. I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but I want to say it was something around $3 grand, $3,500, something like that. Oh yeah, we put a new fuel cell in it. Rebuilt the carburetor. There was a lot of work done to that thing, and everything that I talk about on here, I'm gonna put a link up top, back, you know, up there. I'll put a link up there to the playlist, so that way you can kind of see if you want to go back and rewatch. But Jeremy's truck was really cool. Was able to surprise him with it. That was one of the funniest things ever, because he's just like, golly, this looks just like my truck. He's like, man, this guy's got the same wheels and everything that I got. And it threw him for a loop. He had no idea. And then when he realized it, it was just like this light bulb went off, and it was one of the funniest and most genuine things I think I've ever seen, is somebody so excited. And the funny part was, I thought that man was going to have a heart attack at one point, because he kept grabbing at his chest. And I was like, oh my God, please don't kill this man. I know we just surprised the hell out of him, but I don't want to be responsible for killing this guy. But he was super excited, super appreciative, and he's still out cruising that truck. He still gets out and cruises the truck. He's been doing some work to it. I know he started, I guess there was a lot of rust that the previous owner fixed on the drip rail. And the way they fixed it was they basically just filled it in with, body filler. So he's been ripping that out little bits at a time, trying to get that all cleaned up so he can get some metal in there. Still got a few wiring problems. I know he's got a wiring harness for it, and I've been so tied up with all these other little projects and things that I hadn't had a chance to get with him about maybe rewiring that truck. But I got to get this Blazer done first. So he's been out driving it, cruising it, having a good time with it. Truck's still running really good and strong. As a matter of fact, he let his daughter drive it the other day. And I know she was, having the time of her life driving that old truck. So yeah, Jeremy's truck was kind of the start. And it's still out there, still chugging along, doing a lot more than it would have been doing otherwise. And that was kind of the original point of starting the channel, was, not because, I just thought I'm, awesome, which I am, don't get me wrong. but I know I don't know everything, that's evident in this floor replacement, because this is the first time I've ever touched this stuff. I'm literally learning as I go. But one of the points in starting the channel was, even if you don't know anything or everything, it's never too late to learn. I mean, really, my first engine swap wasn't until I got Steve and I swapped out that 6-cylinder with the 350. First time I'd ever done an engine swap. I think that was probably the first time I've ever pulled a motor. And that was only 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I forget how long, maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. But, that's the first time I'd done an engine swap. I'd tinkered and done a bunch of stuff, but Steve was kind of the first truck that got me, really got me, neck deep in it. So, I've learned a lot working on Steve. That's one of the reasons why I'll probably never sell that truck, is, that's the first one I've ever really dropped. I'd had another, I think it was an 85. I'm almost positive it was an 85 because it had overdrive. A little 85 two-wheel drive truck, short bed. And this was a long time ago. I think when I got it, Jackson was probably 3 or 4. And that truck, I put some drop hangers on it just to get the rear end to sit a little bit leveler. And that was the first time I'd ever lowered a vehicle. And then, here comes Steve, and now I've done dropped it. I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but I want to say it's 5 in the front and 8 in the back. Something like that. It's pretty good drop. So, that was one of the main points of starting the channel was, you don't have to know everything. Just get out there and learn. I mean, you know, every time I get out into the shop, I learn something new. A new way to break something, you know, break a bolt loose, or break a ball joint loose, or, you know, cutting a damn floor out of a blazer. You know, so every time I come out here, I learn something new. And I had a boss years ago that told me, if you learn something new every day, then that day was not wasted. And I try to live by that. It's a really good little rule to live by. So try to learn something new every day, and the day's not wasted. So almost every day I come out here, I learn something new. And it's been really good, and I've really enjoyed it. Plus I do enjoy doing this stuff. Floors, not so much, but now I know a little bit more than I did yesterday about floors, and I know kind of the what not to do, what to do, although I'll probably still do a lot of what not to do as time goes on. But but that's kind of the big deal, is don't be afraid to get out there and try stuff. You know, I literally, I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the times. I just kind of get out here and, is that lined up? Yep. I just kind of get out here and get to tinkering and doing, and just kind of figure it out as I go. So, you know, that was, like I said, that was the main point of starting the channel. And I like to think that I kind of keep that going by tackling stuff I've never done. So, so anyhow, let's see, what else did we work on this year? Well, there was a lot of stuff done to Steve since I brought Steve up. There was a whole lot of stuff done to Steve. Getting him ready for Hot Rod Power Tour. Breaking down Hot Rod Power Tour. And that was more my doing. The reason why Steve broke down was because, you know, I think part of it was not torquing the spindle nut down to the right specs. And then it probably wasn't packed as good as it should be. So that's been remedied. Those things are now torqued, which to me still seems insane. 12 foot-pounds. Which just seems awful low. But, and I've gone back and repacked it. And I got all the confidence in that truck now. But, you know, did a lot with Steve this year. Steve got new wheels, polished those guys up, those Boyds. That was, God almighty, that was a lot of work. But definitely very rewarding work, and definitely stuff you could, you know, basically see right off the bat. And really, I really do like the way those wheels turned out on the truck. You know, we did a bunch of little work to Steve, nothing major. You know, recovered the seat, and did the wheels, did the kind of went back through the brakes, changed out the carburetor. You know, just kind of went through Steve, got him prepped up and ready for Power Tour, and that was a lot of fun. It was really hot. And being in a truck that doesn't have air conditioning was kind of miserable, but it was still a really fun experience. You know, even the breakdown was an experience. It was a frustrating experience, but you know, it was an experience nonetheless. And I do have to give another big shout out to my buddy Joe down there in and around the Pensacola area. They let me store Steve over at his house for, you know, basically a week. So I wasn't holding everybody up, and we could make our way over to Atlanta. And, you know, he let me keep Steve over there, and went over there and picked him up and brought him back home and got some new spindles on it and got it up and running. So, yeah, big thanks to Joe on that one. Oh, let's see. We also worked on Caden's truck. I've done a lot of work on Caden's truck. His truck is actually, I think I've talked about it before, but we bought, or I should say Crook bought Caden's truck right at the height of the whole, you know, coronavirus stuff. That was in March of 2020, and we found it just outside of Knoxville, and the dude was selling it, and I think he was asking $1,200 for the truck. And it's a pretty good solid truck. It's got a lot of surface rust. It's got a little bit of rust in the bed floor, and just a little bit in the cab, not a ton in the cab, which is one of the reasons why I went ahead and, you know, jumped on it. But the guy that was selling the truck. I think he had it listed at $1,200, not running. We get out there, the motor doesn't have the top end on it. The heads are in the bed of the truck. Been sitting out in the elements for God knows how long. So the heads are all rotted up, you know, rusted up, and you know, obviously the motor wasn't, you know, the motor was just sitting open to the elements for years, I think. So he said some really wonderful words that anytime you go to buy a vehicle, you really want to hear, which is, "I just need it out of my way. Throw me a number." And you're just like, oh. Love hearing them words. But that's also kind of a double-edged sword, because you don't want to hit them too low and piss them off, and then they're like, get off my property. So we threw a number at him, $800, and that's what we ended up buying the truck for. So we brought that truck home here and started working on it, and pulled the motor and the tranny out of it. And at that time, I had bought a 76 GMC that I was planning on doing, you know, another big undertaking. Never done anything like it in my life, but figured, what the hell, why not? I had planned on taking the 76 GMC. It was a long bed, 2-wheel drive truck, and transplanting the body over to a, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was an 02. It's an 02 or 03 GMC Denali 6-liter all-wheel drive truck that I picked up super cheap. And I planned on doing a body swap on it. That way I'd have an all-wheel drive 6-liter, you know, C10. And I was going to find a short bed for it and all that. And actually, that's what I had just bought, was that Denali. That's right. That was the reason why I didn't have the cash for Big John. Okay. But anyways, bouncing all around here. He brought that truck here. I'd already started tearing down that 76. And it was a 72,000 mile truck that had lived on a farm its whole life. So it had not lived an easy life. But when I bought the truck, I was told it had a bad clutch in it. It was a 3-on-the-tree truck. It was a 350 3-on-the-tree truck. And I was told it had a bad clutch. And it had been sitting for like 20 years. And I'd already pulled the motor. Motor is actually sitting on a stand back over in the corner of Shame over there. We got Caden's truck here, and I was like, well, shit, why don't y'all guys just use that 350 I got on it temporarily till you know, find another motor to drop in it. That way you can at least get it up and running. And I was like, heck yeah. Well, you know, that motor had some leaks to it and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? It'd been sitting for a while. It's like, let's just go ahead and pull the top end off, verify everything, replace gaskets, you know, just kind of go through it real fast. So we tore it down, and number 7 cylinder had been sitting with water in it for a long time. And it was scaled up and just seized. So that motor wasn't going to happen without a rebuild. And at that time, you couldn't find a place to do any rebuild because everybody and their brother was doing rebuilds because of the lockdown. So all the machine shops were just plumb full. So we proceeded to start pulling motors. We ended up Crooks 75 step side. It's parked out back. It had 283 in it, and we had actually gotten it running off a bottle, and it sounded good. It wasn't clacking. There wasn't no knocks. It was a good, tight sounding motor. We hadn't run it long, but we run it long enough to know that the motor seemed to be okay. So we're like, all right, let's pull that. Let's slap that in there. So we pulled that motor out of his truck and cleaned it up a little bit, and then when we went to go dip it into Caden's truck, it started just puking out the rear main. So the rear main was pretty much non-existent. Didn't really feel like pulling the entire bottom end apart to replace the rear main. It's like, you know what, screw it. There's a 4.3 sitting in another truck that he had. It was a wrecked 98 with a 4.3 in it, with 4L60. And he's like, screw it, let's just go pull that and we'll slap that in here. We'll have a little 4.3 with overdrive. Heck yeah. So we went and got that, and then started looking at trying to make all the components work, because that's a fuel injected truck, not a TBI. So we're trying to figure out how to make all the fuel injection crap work and go through that. It's like, man, screw it, let's just sell these parts. So we sold all of it. And then it's like, you know what, to hell with it. Let's just see if we can't make this motor that came in Caden's truck run. It's not terrible. It's got some rust on the cylinder walls, but that's about it. It's not, scaly. It's just surface rust. So we pulled it apart, and we didn't really even pull it apart. We just started rotating it over, hosing it down with WD-40, took a Scotch-Brite pad, scoured the cylinder walls good. I think we may have done a little bit of honing to it. I don't recall, but just kind of cleaned the cylinders up a little bit and kept rotating it over and just getting her good and lubed up and going. And then took the heads off of my 350, slapped it on there, and then put it in the truck, and boom, she fired right up and was running. Actually, no, I'll take that back. We did a cam swap too, because his truck came with a brand new cam, comp cam, and that's why his truck hits a lick like crazy, because it's got that hot cam in it. But we put that guy in there. We did everything else and slapped it together. And the truck's still running and driving. It's not without its problems, but let's see here. Recently, he had a bent valve, so he had to replace a valve, and he had blown head gaskets. We're pretty sure the head gaskets blown on Power Tour, because right when we got to Memphis, that thing, it spiked up to 270 or something. It got real hot, and basically blew the upper radiator hose off of it, and just douched that thing with freaking antifreeze. But of course it was, 100+ degree weather out there. It was so freaking hot. Days like today make you really kind of wish it was like that. So anyways, so that truck's still running. We ended up putting a Holley Sniper EFI system on it, with the Hyperspark, the works on it. And I know they've been fighting some little issues with that, getting it tuned just right. And I got the tune pretty close now. And then they were going to upgrade the software on it, and went to reflash it. And I guess the software, the flash that they were putting on there, was corrupt and basically bricked the entire throttle body unit. So, so I know they had to send it back to Holley. I don't know if they've gotten that back yet or not. That was just maybe a month ago. Well, I've done almost all I can do in here, so I need to get to the back of the truck. So I'm gonna move back there, and then I'll catch back up. Well, anyways, so Caden's got his truck, and he's 16 now, so he's driving. Like I said, I don't know if they have gotten the Sniper back from Holley just yet. They had to send it in to get it reflashed, but that truck may show back up down the road sometime. I'm not honestly sure. I know his dad, Crook, is working on building his shop right now, or trying to get the ball rolling on getting him a shop built. So so it may not be on here again. I honestly don't know. Let's see, what else did we have over the past year? We had my buddy Travis. He brought his 4Runner down to replace the flex plate on it, because the flex plate was missing some teeth. It looked like the third shift at a Waffle House, but no offense to Waffle House people. I freaking love Waffle House. I go there all the time. But it was missing some teeth. So brought it down. He pretty much did all the work on that. I was just kind of a gopher and random entertainment for him on that one. His truck, he'd already had the tranny out before, so he knew what all needed to be done and the quickest way to get it done. So he brought it down, and we worked on it for a couple days. getting the tranny pulled, getting a new flex plate put in, and then that final day went to start it up, and it was hydrolocked. So we pulled the plugs out and turned her over, and sure enough, number 4 was plumb full of fuel. He had a stuck injector, and that was actually funny because it was during the winter time and it was cold, and we had the heater running. And I think that video, I'll link it up above as well. That video has a lot of music in it because it's a lot of time lapse. Wasn't a whole lot of stuff going on. Plus, it was so dang cold in here, and I didn't have the shop as insulated as it is now. So the heater pretty much ran the entire time we were out here. And it was really funny because the heater probably shut off 2 minutes before we completely doused that side of the shop right in front of the heater with gasoline whenever we pulled the plugs and turned it over. So, so disaster avoided on that one. Yeah, that could have been a really bad time. So, but I think Travis was setting that truck up for his son. His son was fixing to turn 16, so he was wanting to get it up and on the road so his son could drive it. I followed up with him on that one. I asked him to send me a video, but I guess he's just been busy. Of course, it's, you know, holiday season, things are going on. People got a lot of stuff going on and happening.
Cold out today.
So I never did get a video from him, but that's okay, Travis. I'll let it slide. But he did get new injectors for it, and he said it fired right up, and it was running and driving and doing everything it was supposed to. He's actually got it for sale now, so or he's looking to sell it. I'm not sure reasons why. Maybe his son just didn't like it or something. I don't know. But anyways, so we had the 4Runner. Let's see, the Pontiac. Oh, the Pontiac. So the Pontiac hadn't been on here much. It's pretty much just been on here one episode, and it was kind of in passing. I had decided that I wanted a car. I haven't actually had a hot rod or a muscle car or anything like that in years. I think the last one I had was had a 73. It was actually a 73 Firebird, but it had all the Trans Am parts put on it, so it had Trans Am fenders and had all the spoilers for it and all that stuff. And I think I got rid of it. It was right around the time Jackson was born. I think it was just before he was born. So I haven't had that. I haven't had a hot rod, you know, muscle car type thing in about 16 years. And ended up selling that one off. I still regret selling that off. It was a 73. Like I said, it was a Firebird. But they basically converted it to a Trans Am, had all the Trans Am pieces and parts. It was a fairly solid car. It had the passenger quarter been replaced, and whoever replaced that quarter did a really terrible job on it. It wasn't lined up for nothing. It had a little bit of rust in the tail pan and the trunk floor. The main floorboards were solid. The fenders were good. It was actually a really good car. I actually drove that car around Hendersonville when I lived in Hendersonville. I drove that car as a daily driver for a while. It was a 455 with a turbo 350 behind it. This was right around the time when Joe Dirt came out, and I had a lot of fun with that. So I had gone on eBay and I bought me a Joe Dirt wig, and I would cruise around Hendersonville in this thing with a Joe Dirt wig on. It was also back when I used to smoke. So I'd have a cigarette hanging out my mouth, driving through the middle of Hendersonville with in my primered up 73 Trans Am with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. It was the funniest crap ever. But that was a good car. But anyways, sold it and been wanting another muscle car, you know, hot rod type thing. So so I started looking, and of course I'm like, hey, Trans Am, you know, or Firebird even. Hell, I don't care. And I really, really wanted another one. Oh my God, the prices on those. I mean, I know C10 prices have gone nuts, but those cars, second gen F bodies, whew, they are stupid. Like $4,500, $5,000 for, you know, one that needs floors and trunks and quarters, and it might have a motor, it might not have a motor. You know, it's yeah, those have gotten stupid expensive. So I was still hunting and digging for one of those. But like I said, I love the old poncho stuff. And I stumbled across this 1970 Pontiac Tempest, and I saw it and I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. You know, pretty much a GMA body. They make everything for those cars. You know, same thing as like a Chevelle and a Cutlass. So they make pretty much everything for them cars. So I knew finding parts was going to be easy. So anyways, called the guy up, set up a time, went and bought the car. And it's pretty much still sitting on the side of the shop. Hadn't had a chance to do anything with it. You know, the car didn't have a motor or a tranny in it. He did have a Pontiac 400 motor that he gave me to go with the car, but it is a seized motor and it's got a hole in one of the pistons. He gave me like 4 sets of Pontiac heads. I got a nice aluminum, I think it's a Torker intake, a big old Holley double pumper carburetor that's like brand spanking new, and some other odd and end pieces and parts. You know, and so this car, it isn't perfect by any stretch. I mean, I give like $3 grand for it. It needs some work in the quarters, like the lower quarters are a little rotted. I think the lower fender down there in the dog leg is a little rotted on it. It was originally a white on white car. Somebody's done a really terrible paint job of orange on top of the white where they really didn't sand it, so it didn't stick. They colored the interior black, you know, so it needs some work. But that's I want to get started on that here before long. Got to get this guy out of the way, because basically the rule for my shop is only one non-running vehicle in the shop at a time. Or else it just gets way too crowded in here. So now this thing does run. This Blazer does run, but it doesn't have a top or, you know, most of the floor right now. So anyway, so I'm waiting. As soon as I get done with this Blazer, where it's for the most part on the road, it's dried in, and I ain't got to worry about it too much, then I may roll the Pontiac in and do some work on it, kind of get started on it. But as far as the Pontiac's concerned, it needs a bunch. I'm not sure the direction I want to go with on that car. There's so many possibilities with those A bodies. You know, do I make it a drag and drive type car? I would love to get into drag racing stuff. I've always enjoyed watching drag racing. I've never really had anything that I could take and be competitive with drag racing. I thought about doing that with the Pontiac. I also really enjoy autocross. You know, y'all seen some video of me doing autocross stuff with Steve, which is a ton of fun, but you know, it's a pickup. It's not made for autocross, and it's kind of my shop truck. It's kind of the, you know, the budget build thing. So I don't want to go dumping, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 in a suspension to make it, you know, quasi competitive, and then, you know, doing a bunch of other work to it, putting a little roll cage in it and racing seats and all. I don't really want to do all that to that truck. So, so I was like, well, maybe I could do both with the Pontiac and be decent. I don't know. Don't know the exact route I'm going to go with the Pontiac yet. But I'm still thinking on it. Hey, if y'all guys got some suggestions on that, though, throw it out there. I'm all ears. And speaking of suggestions on the Pontiac, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do for a power plant. I've got that Pontiac 400 motor, but and I'd love to keep it Pontiac, but my God, the amount of money it costs to build a Pontiac motor. Started digging into it. Was talking with, and I can't remember the fella's name, but he's got a YouTube channel, Lucor, what is it? Lucor Mechanics and Lucor Racing, or Lucor Racing, something like that. I'll put a link up there, but yeah, those guys, I ran into them at on Power Tour down in Hoover, Alabama. So the thing that caught my eye there was I was just kind of walking around where a bunch of the YouTube folks were, and there's a freaking 1970 Pontiac Tempest, white on white, sitting there, and I'm like, holy shit, that is my car. I was like, holy crap. And this was right after I bought it. And so I was like, I gotta find out who this is. And so I was asking folks and ended up chit-chatting with them for quite some time. And was just talking to him about, the motor. He's got a stroke 400 in there. I forget what it stroked out to, but it was a 400 block. He stroked it out with Butler Performance stuff. He's got a whole series on the build on that car, but I forget the numbers it puts out, but it puts out very respectable numbers, 500-600 horse, and just a gob of freaking torque. But he says that thing pulls like a dang freight train, and I was asking him numbers, how much it costs to build that, build the motor and do all this and all that. And he said he probably had somewhere around 12 grand in that motor. And I was just like, holy crap, man. That is a lot of money to have in a motor. Not that it's not worth it. But man, I couldn't believe. I was like, golly, 12 grand. So, the cheapskate side of me says, well, hell, I could turbo a freaking LS motor, for less than half of that, probably. And make, about the same, if not more, horsepower. I probably wouldn't come close on the torque numbers. Or maybe come close enough on the torque numbers, but I could, turbo a freaking LS for, next to nothing compared to 12 grand. And, but at the same time, while I enjoy the LSs because that is an amazing motor, amazing platform, everybody's LSing, and I don't want to do the exact same thing that everybody and their brother's doing. I mean, if push comes to shove, though, I will, but I would prefer to be a little different. So I'm still thinking on the motor on that guy. I've toyed around with trying to find what's commonly referred to as the Gen 7 big block. The 8.1 Vortec motor. Thought about doing one of those, just because, again, it's not very common. They make gobs of power. I know it's not the cheapest thing in the world to build, but they make very good power. You can find them for decent money, already running, ready to go pretty much. And then can build on it from there. There's another fellow on YouTube that I watch. What is his channel? LT Tolman, something Tolman, where he's building his ugly truck, which I think it was a 01 or 02 extra cab 2-wheel drive that's got a Vortec in it, and he put a turbo on it. I think he's running like 20 pounds of boost, and it's making just stupid power. And he was able to run that truck into the 10s, and that's a heavy truck. That's 5,000 pounds, if not a little bit more. But thought about one of those because it's different. But the big key is, for me, budget. Budget. That's kind of where I live. And I don't know how budget friendly that'll end up being. But I don't know. So, if y'all guys got some suggestions on that, throw them out there. I just don't know. I've been trying to find another Pontiac motor that doesn't need to be completely rebuilt, a 400 or 455 that, is a running motor, so that I could just get it on the road. I think that'd be cool to have it. I'd love to keep it all Pontiac, but I don't think that's going to happen. So another option I got, and it's one of those, there's a lot of things going up in the air here, is you know, I've got a brand new big block in Big John, and I think that motor's only got 7,000 miles on it at this point. I hadn't put a ton of miles on it, but maybe 7,000 miles on it. Now granted, it's not a performance motor. It's, you know, it's the old peanut port heads, and it's got the low compression on it and all that crap. But it is a good solid big block. And I'm looking to, I really want to do a Cummins swap, a 12 valve swap on Big John as well. So one of my thoughts was I could pull that big block out, build the big block, you know, budget build the big block, make it, you know, make some decent power, and then maybe put that big block in the Pontiac, or take that big block and put it in Steve. Ain't much cooler than a short bed Chevy C10, you know, square body with a freaking big block hitting a lick. It just sounds nasty as hell. And then I could take that Vortec 350 that's in Steve and put it in the Pontiac temporarily until I can either build or find the motor I want to put in the Pontiac. I don't know. There's all sorts of ways to go with it. I thought about, you know, hey, why not go way outside the box and try and find, you know, this is kind of heresy, I know, but maybe find a Coyote motor. Why couldn't I put a Coyote motor in a Pontiac? Definitely different. Not cheap, but definitely different. It would be interesting to have, you know, a little Coyote motor in there, and you know, just do something stupid and fun with that. So I don't know. Literally anything goes at this point. I want to do a 2JZ. As cool as that is, I can't. I can't. So you know, but yeah, leave a comment down below if y'all guys got any ideas. You know, some cool things. You know, different motors or whatnot I could drop in that Pontiac, and if I see one I like, I may start hunting for it. So, or if you got any ideas, you know, stuff I could do with what I've currently got. I've got, like I said, I want a 12 valve swap, the dually. I just think that would make it a lot cooler of a truck, and definitely more usable. But that frees up that big block, and I can either put it in the Pontiac or I can put it in Steve. Then I've got a really good, you know, probably at this point 30-something thousand mile Vortec 350 in Steve that could go in the Pontiac temporarily. You know, whatever. I don't know. So anyways, give me some clues, guys and gals. You know, I got no clue here. Just throw me something here. So that's pretty much the Pontiac, you know, from this point. Is it's just kind of hanging out, waiting, getting a little rustier, sitting outside in the elements, just waiting for me to figure out what exactly I'm going to do to it. So you know, that's that on that guy. So if we move over to this guy, this Blazer, we still hadn't come up with a name for this thing, but it's the Blazer. So, you know, this guy, if you remember back when we first, you know, put this thing on the channel, there wasn't much left of the floorboards up front. So cut them guys out, learned a lot, putting the new pans in up front, cut out the back floor, the bed floor of it, which wasn't terrible. You know, somebody actually put a comment in there, you know, just like, hey, why don't you just patch the holes? It didn't look that bad. And it's really, the floor is not that bad, but it does have holes. But the problem is all the holes were up on the seams, and there's some pinholes just kind of scattered all through, and some really, really rough, rusty spots in there. And my thinking on that was, it'd probably be easier just go ahead and rip the whole dang floor out, replace the whole floor. And the whole bed floor of this thing was not that expensive. It was like $200, I think. As far as time is concerned, I probably would have spent just as much time cutting the old floor out, making patches and patching it up as I would just ripping the old floor out, fixing the rust in and around the outside edges and the mounting areas, and putting a fresh floor in. So as far as time's concerned, it's probably a little bit, I would say it's about the same, if not a little bit quicker to do it this way. Now, I did screw some stuff up by, you know, when I was cutting out on these wheel wells, cutting these spot welds, you know, I butchered up that one over there on the driver's side really bad. This one's just slightly butchered. So I did create a little bit of extra work for myself, but the beautiful thing is it lets me get this whole perimeter of the bed where they love to rust. It gives me access to every bit of that, and I can get through. I can get that all, you know, coated in Pour 15, so that way I don't have to worry about it. You know, this thing was bone stock. You know, we put the 4-inch lift on it. We got these 35-inch tall 35 1250s, I think. I don't even remember what type of tires these are. Katana, I think. Katana! Put these guys on there, some eBay specials, some Ion 17 by 9, I think, wheels. You know, I got spacers for the back because, you know, on the 4-wheel drive trucks and the Blazers, you can tell it a lot more than you can on the trucks for some reason. But the rear axle is actually like 2 inches narrower than the front, or maybe it's 2 inches on each side. I can't remember, but it's a couple inches narrower than the front. And the reason behind that is the front axle had to be extended out a little bit further so that the tires wouldn't rub the frame at full lock. So I did get the lift put in. We swapped the axles. My buddy Crook, his brother had these axles sitting around. I think they're 410 or 411 gear. The rear one's locked. The front one is not, but you know, it's got a locker in the rear. It had already been rebuilt, so it's all fresh on the inside of these axles. And I think I paid him $100 for them, maybe 200. I don't remember. It was not very much. So we put these axles on. You know, got the lift on there. Basically, when I was getting sick of doing floors, I decided to put the lift on. Ran into a few problems with the lift, so I still got a few things to button up on the lift, but it's nothing major. But the truck does run and drive. It kind of stops. I got the front brakes hooked up. So I drove it, you know, around the yard, but it hasn't driven in quite some time because, you know, it hadn't had a floor in it. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at on the Blazer right now. Future stuff coming up on the Blazer is obviously finishing the floor. Got to put the interior back together once we get the floor all done and get everything Pour 15 and rust preventative put on it. Well, instead of just sitting here talking, why don't I move over there and do some more work, because I'm pretty well done over here. So I'll catch up with you over there. But once we get the floors done, I can get the lift kind of sorted out. I've got to get, there's some rust repair on the roof that I got to fix. I got to fix the strikers on the doors. You know, once all the rust repair is done, we're going to put a soft top on this guy. So then it'll be dried in, which will be awesome. Then it can move in and out of the shop, so it's not eating up valuable real estate. We're going to do as a cost-effective interior as we can. Most of the interior on this truck was garbage. You know, we still have the seats from it. I think we might have the door panel for the driver's side. We still have the door panel on the passenger side, but it is rough. All the interior pieces, like all of these panels that went across back here, they were just rotten. I mean, they were crumbling in our hands as we was pulling them off. So we got to build new pieces for back here. I'm not sure if we're going to do carpet or bed liner for the interior. It may be a mix of both. You know, we got to put a dash pad in it. Got to rewire some stuff because there's just wires everywhere. Go back through all the brakes because they've just kind of been put on there. They're not gone through. They're just there. Just kind of go through, you know, fix up the interior as nice as we can. The driver's door's got a big dent in it where it looked like a tree grabbed the mirror and pulled the door out. So I've got another set of doors out back. So we'll probably just hang a new door up right there. And then eventually we'll repaint it. It's got all the clear coats peeling off of it and everything. So Jackson likes this color, so he wants to maintain this color. We may add a gray stripe to the outside, you know, put it either in the middle or do a dark blue, gray, dark blue, two-tone setup, or just basically from the body line down, do all that in gray. We're not 100% sure yet. He wants to look at some more Blazers and kind of get some better ideas about, you know, how he wants to do the paint on this guy. You know, we got plenty of time to work on this. We're not under any type of deadline now that we got Harvey. And you know, speaking of Harvey, That's the most recent one that I've done work on, was taking that truck and getting it up and running and on the road, so he'd have something to drive. And in case you don't remember, went to go buy the truck. They said they priced it at $1,000. I got there and was just like, oh, it's a little rougher than I want to pay for, than I want to deal with for $1,000. And so basically I was just going to walk away, and the guy's like, well, do 600 on it. And I was like, well, yes, I'll do 600 on it. So begrudgingly, I agreed to buy the truck. It's one of those, I mean, $600 on a truck. I mean, come on. Any truck's worth $600. So, anyways, bought the truck, $600, brought it home, and we did a bunch of work to it. Of course, as I said before, I put a link up there for the playlist on it. But we've done a lot of work to Harvey, and Harvey's been doing a good job putting him around, to and from school, to and from friends' houses. Haven't really had any problems other than they like picked up a nail or something. No, it wasn't a nail. It was there was something that was in the bead of the tire. It was leaking and letting it leak down. So had to get a tire fixed on it. Basically, they just dismounted the tire, cleaned up the bead, and remounted the tire, and it was fine. It's a good truck for Jackson to learn in because, as most new drivers do, they make plenty of mistakes. And so if he makes a mistake, it ain't going to hurt much. I mean, it's a $600 truck. If he puts a dent in it or scratches it or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Which is actually funny because the other day, Jackson comes home. And he's like, Dad, I got to tell you something, but you got to promise not to be mad. I was like, oh, no, we ain't playing that game. Tell me. If I'm going to get mad, I'm going to get mad. And he's like, well, you know how you keep yelling at me to slow down on these turns? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, I know what you're talking about now. I'm like, oh, God, what did you do? And he took a turn too fast and went off the road, went into a fence, tore up some poor guy's fence, and put a bunch of scratches on the hood and the fender of the truck, and busted the grill and knocked the headlight loose and busted out a signal light or something. I don't know. He hit the fence pretty good. And I was like, damn it, son. Damn it, Bobby. So anyways, I asked him, I was like, well, did you go talk to the people that you hit the fence on? He's like, yeah. He said the guy was actually out fixing the fence from where somebody else had hit it. And I was like, oh, well, that's convenient. And luckily, the guy was really cool about it. Of course, Jackson said he was pretty upset. Not the guy, but Jackson was pretty upset because I guess it scared the crap out of him, which is bound to happen when you lose control of the vehicle and you go off in a ditch. But he apologized to the guy, offered to pay for it, and the guy was super nice and real easy on him. And basically the guy's like, what do you got in your pocket? And Jackson's like, I got $5 on me. And the guy's like, that'll work, come on. And so Jackson showed him where he tore the fence up exactly, and the guy's like, yeah, don't worry about it. He's like, I'm already fixing this. He's like, I'm just glad you stopped to let me know that that you'd messed it up. So I don't know who the guy is, but if you're watching, thank you very much for not being a total douchebag to my son for making a mistake. But anyways, so it's a good thing that Jackson's driving a $600 truck and not this thing. This thing was done and he went and wrecked it, 2 months in on driving, I'd be pretty hot because I've put a lot of time into this truck. So, but yeah, so he's got Harvey. We're going to pull it in once it warms up, which in a couple of days it's supposed to get back above freezing, thank God. So we're going to pull his truck in. We're going to do the C-notch and get it lowered and put on the ground a little bit. And then then we'll pretty much be done with Harvey. We're not going to spend a bunch of time and money on that truck. Yeah, we're not spending a whole bunch of time and money on that one. Basically, time and money is going to be put into this truck, and he doesn't plan on driving this truck every day. He just wants to keep this one nice and just drive it on nice days, you know. So, and I told him that's totally fine. I'm totally cool with that. So that's about it on the projects. You know, if y'all got any questions or anything about any of the projects or anything that, you know, I've been working on or whatever, feel free to drop a comment. You know, I try to look at all of them. I try to read them all. I try to respond to all of them. So future things that I plan on trying to get to this year. You know, obviously I want to get the Blazer done, or at least done enough to be able to drive it and take it out places, and maybe hit a few shows in it. I have a soft goal on the Blazer right now, to have it done enough and ready enough to where it can drive to the Southeastern Truck Nationals. If you're not familiar with that show, I go to that show every year. It's a fantastic show. It's a Chevy truck only show. Tickets, I think, or registration spots, whatever you want to call it, I believe they go on sale January 14th. And the show's gotten so big to where he's having to limit how many spots there are. So last year there were 1,700. He sold out, including vendor booths and all this other stuff. There was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,750 trucks there. It was a great show. I think it's always the second weekend of July. It's a Friday and Saturday show. There's a lot of folks that come out there with their whole family, you know, to come around looking at the trucks. It's a good chance, if you're into the trucks and all that stuff, it's a good chance to see folks that you don't see very often. Because there's folks that come from all over the U.S. to that show. Like I said, it's a big show. And you know, if you're in the area, I highly suggest go and check it out if you like the old trucks. There's literally any and all your trucks that you could imagine, that as long as they're GM, they're there. And checking those things out, and it's a really good time. But I would like to get this thing there this year. You know, as well as Steve and Big John, you know, get all three of the trucks there. And that's kind of my soft goal for the Blazer, is to get it there. And, you know, speaking of car shows and stuff, I do go to a lot of shows. I enjoy them. The Southeastern Truck Nationals is a definite must. C10 Nationals just did their second year in Nashville this past year. I went to that. I've been both years on that. That's a good time as well. They have you know, the big show with a bunch of trucks and stuff. I think they had 1,300, I want to say 12 or 1,300 trucks there this year. But they also have, you know, autocross, which is just a blast. They have the little mobile dyno there. You know, there's a lot going on at that show as well. It's a good time as well. It's a hard toss-up on which show's better, Southeastern Truck or C10 Nationals. It's kind of apples and oranges. The Southeastern Truck show is more just kind of like your standard truck show, where you just kind of go checking out stuff, hanging out with folks, talking with folks, admiring vehicles, and, you know, trying to get some ideas from looking at other people's work. Where the C10 Nationals, yeah, you can still do that, but you also have some activities that you can do, and they're a lot of fun. They did have drag racing there this past year, but it was a little chaotic because I don't think they realized as many people enjoy drag racing as they had. So, so it was a little chaotic on the drag racing side. You know, there was Battle in Bama. I went to that 2 years ago. I didn't go this past year just because of Power Tour. You know, it's kind of, I could pick one and go to it. I couldn't go to both. So the Battle in Bama show, it's not a C10 only show. That is kind of a everything show. It's a great show. It's down in Mobile, Alabama, right there in front of the USS Alabama. and it's a really good show. Had a good time at that one. The guys went this past year. They had a good time as well. So I may try and go to that show this year. I'm not sure. You know, Hot Rod Power Tour, depending on where it's going to be and if I can make it work. I might try and do that again this year. I'm not sure. It just depends on, you know, finances. You know, that's a big part of it, because that is a long week. That is a week of nothing but running and driving. And I think between gas and, you know, Airbnbs and food and everything, I think that trip probably was, you know, $1,200 or $1,300 trip. And, you know, it was a lot of fun, but, you know, when you're balling on a budget, it's hard to come up with a disposable $1,400. So I don't know if those shows are going to, you know, if Hot Rod Power Tour is going to happen or Battle in Bama is going to happen. But definitely Southeastern Truck Nationals, definitely C10 Nationals. And there'll be some Cars and Coffees that I go to. So probably some other local shows I'll probably get to. But car shows are always a lot of fun. One, you get to show off your hard work, and then two, you get to look at other people's hard work, and also not say steal their ideas, but, you know, look at what they did or how they did something and say, man, that's cool. I kind of want to do something like that, you know. So you know, go check out some car shows, Cars and Coffees and stuff like that. Get out of the house, go check some of that stuff out. So as far as the shows go, that's kind of what my plans are for the year, which basically equals up to 2 shows for sure. The other ones don't really have a plan. So we'll see how those pan out. Now, as far as projects coming up for this year, I mean, obviously this thing, continue working on the Blazer, try to get it done, or more done, or close to done, or done-ish. You know, get rolling on the Pontiac. Like to get that going. You know, like I said, 12 valve swap is kind of where I'm wanting to be with the dually. It's difficult. Like I said, balling on a budget, man, that makes life so much more difficult to try to find the pieces and parts that you need for these things. You know, like I've been actively hunting for a 12 valve, and if you're lucky enough to find one, in and around the $3,000 range, they're usually gone pretty fast. So that's kind of one of my bigger plans for the year, is to try to find a 12 valve 4 Big John so I can get that truck converted over to a diesel, and then that gives me that big block. You know, like I said, it's a low mile big block, and maybe go through it and put some flat top pistons in it, and, you know, put a nice cam on it, put a nice cam in it, and then put some aluminum heads on it, or, you know, find something better than dang peanut port heads, and just make it, you know, just a nice little pavement pounder worth of a motor. And that motor may find its way in the Pontiac. It may be that motor finds its way in Steve, and then, you know, I put the small block from Steve in the Pontiac. I think I still don't know on that, but that's kind of the plan on that end of it. As far as the stuff that I currently have, that I'm currently working on or need to work on, is Blazer, try to get it knocked out, at least mostly. And Pontiac, try to get started on it. 12 valve swap for the dually, which then will start another project more than likely. Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of like a lot of guys, you know, into the cars and trucks and stuff like that, you always see something else you want, or you can always go, you know what, I could really go for one of those. So I've kind of been kicking around in the back of my head about finding another 4-wheel drive truck for me. I love the square bodies. I mean, you know, that's not evident at all. I wouldn't mind having, you know, like a K20, you know, long bed 4-wheel drive, whatever. You know, I prefer to have a manual for that for some reason. But I'd like to get one, you know, small lift, nothing crazy, you know, 4, maybe 6 inches. Running 35, 37s, something like that, you know, something fun. But been toying around with that, and it's like, well, I keep finding them, and I'm like, oh no, I got plenty of projects, but still doesn't make me, not want to run out and go buy one. So, but on the other side of that coin is I kind of, not that I want to get away from the square bodies because I love them. I like them, and I love Chevy products. I love GM stuff. I wouldn't mind, like 64 to 66 C10. Actually, for that, I'd like to have a 2-wheel drive long bed. I just think they look cool. Short beds are great, but for some reason, those with a long bed sitting on the ground they look amazing. But then again, I'm like, well, maybe the folks are getting tired of seeing all the Chevy stuff. maybe they want to see some other stuff. I've toyed with diving back into the Ford world. We did Jeremy's truck. That was 60. What was that, 65? Yeah, 65 F100. There's some old Fords that I do like. On the truck side, of course, everybody likes Mustangs. Well, most people likes Mustangs. I would love to be able to find an old Mustang, but talking about high as Campbell's rear end. So ain't no way in hell I got the kind of money for that. But as far as trucks go, like I said, I wouldn't mind doing, like an old Ford pickup. I really do like, specifically, I like the 70 to 72s. I kind of like the 73 and 74s, 75s. I kind of like those as well, but I really like the 70 to 72s or 73s. Not super up on all my Ford, years and knowledge and all that stuff. And there's been a few that have come up that I've been really tempted to jump at and try to go buy, basically as a, kind of like a will it run type thing, if I can find one with a motor in it, fix it up a little bit and then maybe turn around, flip it and try to make a few bucks off of it, that type of thing. It's not one of those that I'd be looking at one to, buy, fix up and keep. But maybe one to buy, fix up and flip and make a few bucks on it. That would allow me to put more money into, my current projects. So, I don't know if y'all guys would like to see some Ford stuff. Sorry, walking over here to this other side of the shop. If y'all guys would like to see some Ford stuff, let me know down in the comments. Not a big guy on Dodge stuff. There's a couple Dodge trucks that have popped up. One of them I called and called and called and called trying to buy it because it was just cool. I think it was a 62. I want to say it was like 62 D100 or whatever they called the Dodge trucks back then. Had a utility bed on it and everything, and freaking Dylan McCool, other YouTuber, he lives, I don't know, about an hour away from me. He ended up buying it. And I was like, dadgummit, because it was, I was just beating this poor lady up trying to buy this thing. Yeah, the lady never called me back, and then that night I get on YouTube and was looking for something to watch, and I see Dylan McCool put a thumbnail up of the truck saying, I just got a new truck. I was like, damn it all, man. But he is a Dodge guy. I mean, he is definitely a Mopar guy. So, kudos to him for getting that truck because it is cool. It was long. I think it was a long bed with a utility box, and it looked to be fairly original, and it was just, man, it was cool. One of the old Dodges in the 60s, I wouldn't mind getting one of those. They're kind of cool. I don't know. Y'all guys let me know. Do you want to see something other than square bodies on here? Obviously we're going to get to the Pontiac eventually, but, like I said, I might try and buy and flip a few things this year, if at all possible. So, y'all just let me know if that's something y'all guys want to see. Another thing coming up this year, which should happen this year, is I got a buddy from work. His name's Christian. Super, super cool guy. One of my best work buddies. We don't really hang out a bunch after work. He's got, his stuff going on. I got, the shop. So, but he's got a really cool Cutlass that's been sitting for, I don't remember. It was something like 20 years. And he just got him a new place. His family just built a house, and they're supposed to get in a barn or a pole barn or a shop or something built. And he's looking at getting his old Cutlass back, which was his first car. And that car has got such a cool story associated with it. But Christian's not a mechanic guy, so he hears me talking about stuff I'm doing. He watches the channel, so hey, Christian. But he's wanting to get his first car up and running, and he asked me to help him out with that. And I'm like, oh hell yes, I am all over that. And I don't care if any of you people don't want to watch me working on a Cutlass. It's happening. So that should happen at some point this year, and I'm really excited about that one. The car's been sitting, I want to say he said something like 20 years, 16 years, something like, it's been sitting a long, long time. He actually thought it was long gone. And his uncle was holding it for him or something like that. I don't remember. Y'all get the full story whenever that time comes. But he thought it was long gone. He thought it done been sold or scrapped or whatever. And come to find out, it's still there. And he was just like, he was super pumped about it. So I'm excited about that. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I am really looking forward to that, to be able to, try to do, bring that car back to life where he can just, drive it and enjoy it a little bit, and, just work on it and get it back up to running and driving and doing its stuff. So super excited about that one. Really looking forward to it. I know Christian is too. So, anyhow, but that's going to do it for this episode, folks. It's kind of a little stroll down memory lane, and a kind of a what I plan on doing, coming up here the next year. So hopefully the channel continues to grow and do its thing, which super excited. Since we got to the 1,000 mark, got monetized. Get to what was it D&D Speed Shop said, get to make your tens of dollars a month of YouTube money. So but hopefully this thing grows and that actually turns into some I'm not expecting to get rich off of it, but if it allows me to do a little bit more work around here, maybe get into some more projects, do some cool stuff, I'm not gonna poo-poo on that at all. And also, if the channel gets up a little bit bigger to where it makes sense, then I may do some merchandise stuff. I got a lot of ideas kicking around up here. The hats, everybody sees the hats. I got a lot of folks that love the hats. But still looking at doing some merchandise stuff. But I want the channel to be a little bit bigger whenever that happens. So, but there's a lot of ideas kicking around up here. So hopefully that'll happen, sometime this year too. More money coming in means more projects and more work and stuff I can do out here, which then, hey, maybe I can afford to build that Pontiac motor. That'd be awesome. Problem solved. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I hope everybody has had a good Christmas, and I hope everybody has a good New Year. Please be safe. If you drink, don't drive. What is that song? If you drink, don't drive. Do the watermelon crawl. There you go. Little Tracy Bird for you. Anyways, hopefully everybody has a good, safe, very safe New Year's, and I guess we'll see y'all next week. So just remember, folks, it ain't got to be perfect, just good enough, and we'll talk to y'all later.